All right, class. So let's go ahead and finish up this lesson 2. So now we're going to talk about the U.S. involvement in the war. When the war began in 1939, the United States declared its neutrality. Although isolationist feeling remained strong, many Americans, including President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, going forward, I'm going to call him FDR. Okay, that's just his name, FDR. Okay, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, sympathized with those who battled the Axis powers. In time, Roosevelt found ways around the Neutrality Acts to provide aid, including for Britain, as it stood alone against Hitler. So, neutrality. So this is important. The people in the United States didn't care, flat out. So when you read a lot of the newspaper articles, when you read a lot of books, when you read a lot of sources of the time, a lot of people in the United States, their sentiment, the popular sentiment was, hey, let's let them do their own thing, right? We got involved in World War I. We probably shouldn't have, right? A lot of people are thinking this. We probably shouldn't have. We lost a lot of men. We spent a lot of money. And at the end of the day, we have the Depression, right? We're trying to figure out what's going on in our own country. Let's stay out of it, right? But we're not going to be able to for reasons, right? But as we're neutral, we're seeing that Hitler and we're seeing Mussolini and we're seeing the rise of these tyrants and anti-democratic countries and governments starting to rise out of Europe. And the United States is starting to get a little worried, especially when France falls. When France falls, you're going to start seeing a change in sentiment, especially in the popular country in terms of just people, right? So FDR is going to start doing some different things. So the Neutrality Acts is going to be here. Let's talk about over here. Let's talk about over here first. So Roosevelt supports the Allies. In March of 1941, FDR persuaded Congress to pass the Lend-Lease Act. It allowed him to sell or lend war materials to any country whose defense the president deems vital to the defense of the United States. To show further support, Roosevelt met secretly with Churchill on the warship in the Atlantic in August of 1941. The two leaders issued the Atlantic Charter, which set the goal for the war, the final destruction of the Nazi tyranny, and for the post-war world. So before we talk about this, let's talk back about the Neutrality Acts. So the Neutrality Acts are, Congress is going to go to President FDR and say, hey, we need to stay neutral. We can't get involved. A, we don't have the economy. B, the people don't want to be involved. And C, let's just see what happens, right? Let's just see what happens. So as Europe is starting to crumble, as England becomes its only thing, we're going to start helping out. We're going to start sending supplies to different places in Europe, Africa, Asia, and so on and so forth. We're going to try to help some people out there, our allies. So what we're going to do is when we talk about the Lend-Lease Act, there's something that we do first, and that's called cash carry, right? Cash carry is going to evolve into Lend-Lease. So what cash carry means is, hey, we're neutral, but we'll sell you supplies if you come to us and pay us cash and you carry it back home, right? Imagine the United States as a store. You have to come to the store, the United States, pay for it in cash, and then you carry it back home, cash carry. As soon as France falls, that changes to Lend-Lease. Now what we're going to do is we're going to give you supplies. We're going to lend you supplies. You don't have to pay for them in cash. Pay for it later. That's what lease means. You pay for it later. And we're going to go ahead and take it to you. So instead of using your resources, instead of using your ships to go and pick up supplies, keep them there. We're going to go to you. Pay us whenever you want, right? Does that sound neutral? Nah, not really. But FDR is going to be able to say, if we don't protect those that are our friends, right, then the defense of the United States is doomed. If that makes any sense. So when he tells Congress, as soon as England collapses, we have no help. If something else happens, if they turn their eyes on us for whatever reason, we have no help. We have no one to defend us. So as long as we defend those who can defend us, it's kind of a workaround. So we're able to do this Lend-Lease Act, right? And to show further support, right, like he said, like it says here, Roosevelt is, in secrecy, Congress doesn't know about this yet. He's going to go on the Atlantic, the warship, the Atlantic, and he's going to talk to Churchill about, hey, what's going on? What do you need? What does it look like in the future? Do you need help? Or how scared of you are of Hitler? How scared of you are of Mussolini? So on and so forth. What's going on in France? What can we possibly do to help? Right? And ultimately, what they come out, this Atlantic Charter, is they're going to say the Nazis must go. Mussolini is his own thing. He's not that big of a threat. Franco in Spain is no threat, but Nazi tyranny must end. And that's when they make pretty much an alliance. So, which we already had, right? Because we're always going to help out Britain. Britain's going to be our big brother, pretty much. So what's going to happen is we're going to have like a wink-wink agreement with England and say, hey, you know what? We're going to help you as much as we can without us actually giving you soldiers, right? So we're going to give you supplies. We're going to take them to you. You can pay us back later. Now, growing tensions in Japan. So while this is happening in Europe, we're kind of distracted from what's going on in Asia. In 1940, with Europeans distracted by war, Japan advanced into French Indochina and the Dutch East Indies. In response, the United States banned the sale of war materials such as iron, steel, and oil to Japan. Japanese leaders saw this move as a threat to Japan's economy and its Asian sphere of influence. So the United States is going to have a really good relationship with Japan before World War II, right? We're selling them tons of war materials, right? Iron, steel, oil, machinery, so on and so forth, right? However, they're going to start imperializing the Pacific. They're going to start taking, right, islands around Japan. We saw that in the map I sent you guys on the last slide, right? And the United States is going to have has an issue with this because those are our allies, usually. Right, we're usually very friendly with the French, especially the French territories. We're usually very friendly with the Netherlands. So when Japan is annihilating people in those territories, the United States is going to say, "Hey, you can't attack our friends' colonies." So instead of us actually giving an all-out attack, we're just going to reprimand you. We're going to slap you on the wrist, and we're going to give you tariffs. Right? That didn't work. The tariffs, right, which is extra taxes, so increase of price. Once that didn't work and they still kept attacking people, we just say, you know what? We're withdrawing all of our resources to you. And Japan's going to get upset. Japan and the U.S. talked to ease the growing tension, but extreme militarists were gaining power in Japan, including General Hideki Tojo, who became prime minister in 1941. Prime Minister Tojo, another militarist, hoped to seize more land in Asia and the Pacific and believed the United States was interfering with their plans. So militarist class are going to be people, right, who are going to be ultra-nationalists. They're going to be ultra-nationalist, and they're going to want, right, to increase the wealth, to increase the boundaries of their nation at all costs, right, at all costs. If it has to go to war for it, so be it. We got to do what we got to do to make ourselves better, right? That's what militarists are. They're going to come out of the military, and they're going to lead this sentiment, this war sentiment, this very, right, this Aztec-like, this Spartan-like, we need to be in a constant state of war, because if we're not at war, we're not growing, we're not being the best we could possibly be, right? That's the kind of idea that militarisms are going to have. Hideki Tojo, who was a general in the army, when he becomes prime minister, that's the sentiment going forward forever until, right, he ultimately isn't anymore, right? So Japan is going to become very imperialistic. Very imperialistic. So Tojo is going to look at what we just did to the United States and say, hey, if you're not going to help us grow, then you're a threat. And if you're a threat, we got to do something about it, right? And they did. With talks at a standstill, General Tojo ordered a surprise attack. Early on December 7th, 1941, Japanese airplanes bombed the American fleet at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. The attack took the lives of about 2,400 people and destroyed battleships and aircraft. The next day, a grim-faced President Roosevelt told the nation that December 7th was the date which will live in infamy. he asked Congress to declare war on Japan. On December 11th, Germany and Italy, as Japan's allies, declared war on the United States. So I went ahead and I gave you guys some footage on Pearl Harbor and the incredible speech that FDR does give to Congress. As you could tell by when you guys watch the video about the speech to Congress, what you're going to see is you're going to see an awakening. That's the only way I could say it. Japan is going to awaken the American monster, right? The monster that America can be. When the United States decides to do something and the people back that thing, it's scary. It's absolutely horrifying for who's ever in the United States' way, right? Why? Because the United States is such a massive economic beast, right? When the industrial complex of the country decides to do something, there's no way you can stop it. How can you stop it? The United States is just too big. There's too many factories throughout the country. Oh, there's a factory in LA, let's say in talking about Japan. Oh, there's a factory in LA, let's destroy that factory in LA. Well, that's fine. There's a factory in Michigan, Detroit, Chicago, right? Philadelphia, that you can't even get to, right? Why can't you get it? Because it's 3,000 miles away from LA, let alone how far it is from Japan, right? So the United States, when you see this video of Congress and the way the Congress reacts to FDR just saying, right, Japan doesn't know what it's getting itself into. They don't. They absolutely have no idea what they're getting themselves into, right? The attack on Pearl Harbor is an absolute nightmare, right? It's something that we were not anticipating. However, there's a reason why Pearl Harbor is ingrained in our minds, right? It's a surprise attack, much like 9/11, to a much, much larger scale. When the United States gets attacked, it's a big deal. It doesn't happen all that much. And so this is going to be us finally saying, hey, you know what? We've been neutral for too long. We were neutral for so long that these other countries, these other empires, our enemies, the Axis powers, acted upon it before we had the opportunity to do it. That's why, guys, class, going forward, that's why the United States is so aggressive right after this. That's why when something is happening, let's say in Iraq, that's why the United States jumps on it, right? Because we learned from the past. We failed to jump on anything during World War II. That's how we got attacked. We didn't come into the war on our own volition. We were forced to get into the war. We were forced to retaliate against Japan. So December 8th, unanimously, every single person in Congress voted for war. We declare war on Japan. As a result, Germany and Italy, as Japan's allies, declares war on the United States, right? And since Japan attacked us, they already pretty much said, we're going to war. So this is how everything happens. Now the alliances are set. The United States are the last power to go into World War II, and that's going to be the tipping point. So go ahead, class, and watch these two videos. They're incredibly fascinating to watch. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it for our involvement in not the starting, but that's how our involvement starts in World War II, right? It's very important to remember that at first we were isolationist. We wanted nothing to do with anything. We wanted to stay isolated. Oh, it's only in Europe. So worry about them later. We'll keep us safe. We're fine. No one's messing with us. We're good, right? Isolationism turns into neutrality, which means we're starting to acknowledge that it's happening. We're starting to pay attention to what's going on. And that neutrality is going to start turning to a little bit less and less neutral. Okay, we'll sell you goods, not to Germany, right? Only to our friends, England, right? You have to come pay us cash and you carry it back home, cash carry. That cash carry is going to turn into Lend-Lease. We're going to go ahead and send it to you. We're going to put the goods on our own ships, take those ships to your country, drop them off, pay us later, right? Give us an IOU, right? You owe us later. And then, due to Japan, they attack us at Pearl Harbor. Everyone in the country sees this. We're shocked as a nation. We want justice. We want revenge. That's how the United States, a single day later, not even a full 24 hours later, that's how the United States is going to get into World War II, right? Forget the neutrality, forget the isolationists. We're going to shift from wanting to be by ourselves to we want to be in the middle of everything, and we want to wipe the floor with everybody, right? So that's how quickly, over the course of 2 years, over the course of around 18 months, that's how quickly the national sentiment is going to change, right, class? And that's pretty much it. Talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.